Today marks the start of New York State's fiscal year, and a state budget agreement is nowhere to be found. State lawmakers approved a short-term budget extender this morning. It runs through Thursday to basically ensure the state payroll goes out on time. It might not be the last extension either. That's according to Governor Kathy Hochul's budget director, Blake Washington.
If the budget is not enacted by that date, we'll ask them to do another short-term extender to keep the operation of the state government moving.
So what's a holdup? A lot of things not really related to money. It's more about rules in court, cell phones in schools. We sort through the budget delays on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Securities offered through Hightower Securities, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Hightower is an SEC-registered investment advisor. And Kinney Drugs, now offering specialized home medical equipment and supplies. Learn more at KinneyHomeCare.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Tuesday, April 1st. No jokes here, only the truth here on NCPR. First up, the city of Plattsburgh has some of the cheapest electric rates in the entire state. That's because it gets hydropower from the Niagara River near Niagara Falls in western New York. The dam is right on the U.S.-Canada border, and that's made some locals concerned about whether their rates will go up due to potential energy tariffs. Kara Chapman reports they shouldn't worry.
Customers in the city of Plattsburgh won't be affected by energy tariffs put in place by either the U.S. or Canada for a very simple reason.
We do not get power from Canada.
That's Bill Tracy, manager of the Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department.
It's generated for the most part, in Lewiston, New York, as part of the Niagara Project.
The Niagara Power Project is owned and operated by the New York Power Authority, or NYPA. NYPA's website says the project is its biggest electricity producer, providing up to 2.6 million kilowatts to state facilities, municipal and rural electric co-ops, and large utilities across the state. Tracy says Canada has a totally separate hydro operation on the other side of the river. They're not connected.
One side goes to Canada, one side goes to the U.S.
That means city residents won't see changes to their electric bills due to any energy tariffs put in place by either President Donald Trump's administration or governments in Canada. Currently, energy coming into the U.S. that isn't compliant with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement is under a 10% tariff. Plattsburgh is set to continue receiving this cheap hydroelectricity until at least 2040. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
Today, April 1st, marks the opening day for fly fishing season in New York State. And down in the Catskills, it's a tradition to open the season with a celebratory first cast at a popular spot in a place they call down there Trout Town, USA. Kimberly Izar with the New York Public News Network was there.
It's a chilly April 1st, just after sunrise in Trout Town, USA, or Roscoe, New York to most. The cold temperatures didn't deter more than 40 fly fishers and residents to come on down to Junction Pool for the ceremonial first cast of fly fishing season. Since the 1940s, it's been a tradition for fly fishers to meet where the Willowweemock and Beaverkill rivers converge to celebrate opening day of the season. Fly fishing is a fishing technique where fishers angle a special fly rod to catch all sorts of fish species. Bruce Pollock of Theodore Gordon Fly Fishers said that while starting as a new fly fisher can feel tricky, there are 3 different styles of fly fishing to know.
You're actually imitating the stages of an aquatic insect, the mayfly. So you can nymph fish, you can wet fly fish, or you can dry fly fish.
Fly fishers describe the sport as therapeutic, magical. In Judy Van Put's case, fly fishing represents community and the relationships built through fly fishing. Judy Van Put is a legendary fly fishing icon, sports writer, and late wife to Ed Van Put, a lifelong conservationist and renowned fly fisher.
Started fishing with my dad from the time I can remember. I don't know if I was 4 or 5 years old. And then my dad started to teach me to fly fish, and I went off to college, and then I met Ed working for the DEC. We both worked in fisheries, and Ed taught me how to fly fish. And somewhere along the way, he became my best friend and the love of my life. So pretty much everything we did, all the socializing we did, revolved around fishing.
Van Put braved the cold waters with her son Lee as part of the ceremonial first cast. She offered this piece of advice for those just getting started.
Get out to fish as often as you can. Ask lots of questions. Don't be afraid to try things. And when you have the desire, you will succeed. There are lots of people who are happy to help you in whatever aspect you need help in.
In Roscoe, I'm Kimberly Izar for the New York Public News Network.
So what's holding up the state budget isn't really budgetary stuff. Governor Hochul and state lawmakers have struggled to reach consensus on policy items that the governor has inserted into budget talks. That includes her push to enact new restrictions on wearing masks in public and changes to the way prosecutors share evidence in criminal cases, and more. Jimmy Vielkheim and Jung-Yoon Han, our two Albany reporters for the New York Public News Network, got together in their Capitol Bureau Public Radio corner to break it all down.
Hi, Jung-Yoon.
Hey, Jimmy.
So, Jung-Yoon, you were with Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie on Thursday when he gave a budget update. How are things going?
So he said, well, the talks are going well largely on fiscal matters when it comes to things like spending, education, and health care. The lawmakers seem to be pretty much on the same page is what he said. The real issue is over policy items, and it's getting a little messy is how he put it.
I know one of those has to do with discovery, which is the process by which information is shared before a criminal trial. Now, remind me, what does Governor Hochul want to do, and what's the latest?
She's backing a proposal that prosecutors are in favor of, which would loosen the standards for the kind of evidence that they have to turn over in criminal cases. The big word that they want to change is making it so that material is only shared if it's relevant to a case instead of related. Now, there are lawmakers who are concerned that this would water things down and water the kinds of evidence and protections that defense should have access to certain kinds of materials. So they're working through some compromises right now. Some ideas on the table would be to increase funding for prosecutors to be able to get the evidence in a timely manner, and also setting into law the idea that cases won't be dismissed on technicalities. Jimmy, in terms of other issues that's currently being negotiated, you've been reporting on Hochul's proposal to restrict wearing masks in public. What's going on there?
Well, it remains a sticking point, and but now you've started to get some big players to engage on. There's the proposal out there to restrict masks, and one of the big endorsers is the NAACP, a key civil rights group. That's something that advocates for this restriction have put forward. On the other hand, there has been some pushback from, among others, labor unions. They're a pretty strong constituency in a big democratic state. But, this is really tricky. The enforcement is kind of inherently subjective, and so it's hard to get the exact words right.
It seems like the only place where lawmakers have seemed to come to agreement is on cell phones and the cell phone ban in schools. What's the latest there?
Yeah, sorry for our teenage listeners, but it seems like lawmakers have come around to Governor Hochul on this one. She wanted a ban from, quote, bell to bell during the school day. School groups had pushed back, but the teachers union was really big on the bell to bell proposal. And we heard this week from both Assembly Speaker Hastie and Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins that their members have basically come around on it. That's why you see Hochul has moved on. And maybe things are getting a little bit closer to the money stuff.
Right. But, I just got to ask you, this is my first time covering the budget, not yours. Yeah. You've been around the block for a while on this. What do you think in terms of how this budget's going so far?
Well, the way to predict this kind of thing is not by the April 1 deadline, but it's by spring vacations.
The big question.
Right now, state lawmakers are supposed to leave the Capitol for 2 weeks starting on Wednesday, April 9th. So my guess is the budget will be totally done by Friday, April 11th.
Huh.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for talking this through with me.
Yeah, good to talk with you, Jung-Yoon. Have a good week.
That was Jimmy Vielkheim and Jung-Yoon Han of the New York Public News Network on what's holding up the state budget. We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Alert listener Adam from Kingston, Ontario emailed me with an idea for a new name for this show. He said it should be called Aperture. It's kind of hard to say, I got to admit, but it's closer. I like the reference to movies or photography. We try to paint pictures here on the radio, right? So If you will, take Adam's lead. Email me your new name for Story of the Day, david@ncpr.org. Thanks so much. Music today by Christopher Watson, Bee Children, both of Canton. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.